Hello, hello. Are we all set? First time starting, hitting the button, and it seems like I go live immediately. I don't know what kind of latency we have though. Seems like it goes live right away. That's pretty sweet. Got the monitor up on the side here. Cool. Well, we were going to stream yesterday, but YouTube, when you first time you start streaming, it puts a 24-hour lock on it. I thought I had clicked through and checked all the buttons and pressed all the things to get it to like let me just go live right away. But I was like, oh, I'll click this last button that says go live yesterday at like 2 hours before I was going to start, and then it said you have 24 hours to wait until you can stream. So here we are today. We got a little bit of a new digs. Change the background a little bit. We're gonna have to change some of our overlays and stuff. We were using showmy.chat before, and that is a chat overlay that only works with Twitch. So we started last stream, which I guess was last week? It was last week. Last week, Friday. We started working on switching that over and moving it into our WebGL scene, which I think will be fun because we can have the chat bubbles and stuff interact with our physics on the scene potentially. I think we can get it to work. We'll see what we can do. So yeah, well, this is probably going to be a little bit of working on that. As parts of the stream seem to work or break, we'll sort of fix it live. I think the messages are, and you are just back here pushing. Come up here, say hi. Nope, come on. If you want attention, come up. Kitty, you say hi? Say meow. Nothing. Just wants to be annoying. So that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna see how much progress we can make on this overlay, and see if we can get any more of these bits worked out that we haven't yet. Stop licking my green screen, you little goof. Yes, you. I will give you attention. Just sit up here. I don't know if she likes it's not really taste, but the texture of it on her tongue. Stop. It bugs me because I see the green screen just wiggling in the background in the camera. Okay, come on. Out of there. Okay, let's flip over. We've got, so the chat is definitely not working. Come on. The chat is definitely not working, so we'll have to fix that. We do have things switched over to the streamer.bot. I've got a bunch of events and stuff set up, and the queues should be working. I don't know if these... I don't have some of the commands set up. I don't know if streamer.bot is going to work with it either. Or excuse me, not streamer.bot, Stream Elements, which has a bot. I'm actually curious. Let's just see if we do. I think uptime is only going to be... I don't think Stream Elements is set up with it yet. Or not working. But I'm actually kind of okay just having most of that go through the streamer.bot. I think we'll have a little bit more control over it, and we can do a little bit more with it. And it'll give us less things that we need to worry about. Sort of have like one thing that all of our stream stuff goes through. All right, so let's get this rolling. We are using npm for this, so we'll do npm start, I guess. Looks like. And we'll wait for that to start up. I think it's on. Yeah, it's on like a weird port 5173. I guess weird is relative, but you know. So this is what we got with in our great old Comic Sans for the folks that love that font. We'll change it, don't worry. One thing at a time though. So we get our connecting and we get the connecting responses. So we got to make sure that we didn't if we do a test chat message. I also started piping in this, but I don't know if it's set up to show in here yet. In streamer.bot we have the platforms, and I'm piping in the chat event to the aptly named action chat event. And this should be giving us chat event. Okay, so we're getting a chat event here. We might just not be listening to the appropriate thing. Let's open up that real quick. Streamer.bot. We can look at, I believe the docs are updated with the YouTube information, so we can see the events. Chat message. Message ID, message and publish it. Oh, is that really it? I thought we had more in there. All events. Oh, and we get that. So we'll get this plus the other stuff. So it looks like we have everything coming through. We can rename stuff, does not say Twitch, because that's just going to bug me after a while. But let's just double check that we're getting it through in here. We make our socket connection. Here's the things that we can subscribe to. We might need to change that. Yeah, because we're doing a socket.subscribe, of which we're doing this, and we are subscribing to the Twitch event, which is not going to work anymore. So we need to do stream info. Where did they have that? Might be in the server section. Servers and clients. WebSocket server. Yeah, so we need to subscribe specifically to it. So there is a command speech to text file watcher. Nifty. I think there is also YouTube in here. I think it's just not actually specifically listed. Is there a WebSocket server requests? I believe there, so we can do the subscribe and unsubscribe, but we can also do get events. Ooh, See, this stuff is going to be fun here. Do action. Because we could do things like in our physics setup, we could have like somebody does a chat command and their avatar drops, and if it lands in a thing, they get points or something. It can all kind of loop back and forth, which I think is going to be interesting. There is some things in Twitch, as far as like extensions and such go, that are more developed than what YouTube has. But I think if YouTube doesn't have it, I think we can end up just doing it through streamer.bot, because that's going to give us the ability to like hold global variables or values or whatnot for specific people. So I think we can do some interesting things there. So let's do this get action. So we got to do get events. That should give us the events that we can subscribe to. So both the Twitch. Actually, I don't know if it's going to give us a Twitch. It might. Because we still have Twitch connected, so it might give us both Twitch and YouTube. But let's go ahead and do. Once it's open, we need to do a send. Socket.send. So we'll do right here, we'll say yield socket.send, and we're going to do that message ID. I don't know that I test one. I don't know that matters too much, but so this will reload. So the hot module reloading. It should then send off. We do need to say const event list equals this, and let's do this event list. So now what this is doing is it is opening up a socket. Add the host and port that we've specified. We have a couple states that have been predefined, and it sort of sets up this with error logging, this socket, with a couple functions that we can do. And that boils it down into a single command that we can run in further on code. So we're sort of like abstracting out this setup. And then a channel is a way that we can record these events and then filter them further down the line. So in this setup, we are creating a socket connection to localhost, which is 127.0.0.1 is the actual IP, and then localhost is the host, like the default host set up to like redirect to it. I don't know if it's actually a redirect. Resolve, like a DNS type of resolve to it, I believe. But either way, this is effectively the same as localhost as far as we are concerned. And then after we have set up that socket connection, we are doing the get events. And the socket connection is hitting this. So we are doing, we've got a WebSocket server running through streamer.bot, in which we are essentially using that as a proxy for all the things. So we could run multiple integrations through streamer.bot, and then we have like one surface, like one API that we hit on our front end. And it sort of simplifies things rather than trying to dump stuff on the front end side of things. We can pipe everything through one abstraction. All right, let's try refreshing. Why aren't we logging anything out here? Yeah, okay, fine. Favicon not found. So we're sending a message with that. And we get the open. Do I not actually need to yield it? I presumed that I needed to yield it. Yield to it? I guess not. Error, malformed command. I feel like there should be... I mean, we've got the subscribe. Subscribe returns a generator. I wish there was a better way for me to handle this. 81. So we are getting, it is open and then it's undefined. Why would that be undefined? Yeah, see, this is what we're expecting. So I would expect to see YouTube in here. Yep. See, here you go. But we are not getting that. It might be that message ID actually cannot do that data format. Malformed command. Stringified. So we're actually gonna just do it in here. Because I think all of our instances where we want to send a socket response, we actually do want to just go ahead and stringify it. So here we're getting the things. So we'll see a few things. Broadcast started, message. So we want to subscribe to message. Member milestone, membership gift. We're gonna start with this. And we want to use these. And instead of Twitch, we are now going to be subscribing to YouTube. So we're going to remove this hard coding here and say YouTube. So now we should have subscribed. And in our filters, we are still looking for chat message. So let's go ahead and search for chat message. Because I think there is 2 instances of it. Yep. And switch this to message. We'll have to we don't have those channel point redemptions anymore. I'm gonna need that. I'm gonna need those drinks as I'm working on this. We're gonna comment this out for right now because it's nice to have that handy. But all we really care about is the message at the moment. So if we do that, we should hopefully start seeing something as far as events go. There we go. And it's possible that our data is going to be different. See, we get the user. This would be my ID and my name. And event. So we can check to see if this still works. And that would be a chat command that we are effectively listening for. does not. So let's go ahead and fix that real quick. So if it starts with an alert data message, alert data message. I think we're just going to need message now. There's not that extra nesting that's happening here. Let's go ahead and search for that. Looks like we just have it in this case. Alerts, stream events. Okay. Not spawn a child, that's fine. Okay. Now, did we fix this? So we see the event. We are seeing the data and the message. But it's not coming through here. Let's go ahead and make this a little bit bigger. We don't need it so small. This is within the alerts. We are setting a message, and it should be event data message. So so alert event.type. Event.type is message, okay. And alert data message. So I think that should be coming through. Now we may have some built-in assumption here that we need to deal with. So if alert.message starts with index, otherwise we're doing So if we go in here and say console.dir, let's log out alert. I think this is going to give us a little bit more information to work with. I believe it should be getting to that log, but it doesn't seem like we are. So that log that we are seeing is coming from, where did we put it? Socket subscription. Where's that alert coming from? Stream 60. So line 60 is where it's coming from. Here. Let's take that off for right now. I think that's going to muddy the water a little bit too much. Just to make sure that when we look at it, we're not accidentally confusing ourselves. So we should be getting this channel alert, which is coming through the use alert. And use alert is looking for a stream, of which is set up via this. So we are filtering on that, in which case we can do a console.dir event here. So that's sort of a layer above where we were looking before. Check this out. Doesn't seem like we're getting anything to come through here. So let's double check to make sure that we do have some chat events. We can double check the values that are coming through. It's funny, I'm not a VIP. I kind of assumed that it would check all those for you. So the message is here, and that is our last message. So we are definitely getting it there. And I guess we were seeing it before in the logs. So we are definitely getting the value into sort of the top level, the main input into our front end. And then we are filtering on that information. So we are creating a channel. And that is changing my mind. We're gonna put this back on. This is where we were getting that log before. So our message event message.data. Got it. Okay. So we do actually want to do the event here because the event is what I care about. The way it's set up is to in streamer.bot, it has a like stringified JSON, so we have to parse it before we can actually use anything there. What does this look like? So we get the object that's coming through, we get a data and the event. We need the data and event. Event.type is going to be message. That should be true. And alert.data.message. Alert.data.message should start with 3D, which it does. So I think we should be fine here, but we are definitely not getting it here. Which leads me to believe that we are losing something in that part. Build event. Nope, never mind. We're not using that anymore. We removed it and never brought it back in. I think we will still want something of this sort, but we'll come back to that. This was like we had said before. Twitch has a few more features as far as. I mean, I guess YouTube has redirects. This has raids, but YouTube also has rewards, channel point redemptions, bits, and a couple other little things like that. That YouTube doesn't really have. It sort of has the like first time chatter, which Twitch does, and like subscription super chat, which is sort of, I guess super chat's sort of like bits. It has some, but not quite all. I guess the channel point rewards, that's probably the big thing that's missing. But honestly, like, I don't think it's the end of the world, especially if we use this program to sort of fill in those gaps. So I was actually just looking at my stats here. Average time to render frame. It's a little bit high. But we're pushing out a good minimum bit rate, so that might be part of it. Okay, anyways, getting myself distracted. Let's come back to this. Let us just go ahead and log out all of the events here. And let's see what we're working with in this filter. Are you gonna? I don't understand, like sometimes feed seems to reload well or quickly. Sometimes it doesn't. Shrug. And of course I misspelled shrug. So we're getting the stream event. It's still not coming through to the channel. So this channel.send. We are doing a subscription and it's getting a channel. We're giving it a list and an ID. So we are subscribing to the messages. And we are subscribing to message deleted and user banned. 4D chess. Nice. If we can get the bloody thing to work, 3D is supposed to be a command that pops up and does 3D text. But in the swap to YouTube here, that seems to not be working anymore. So we're doing a filter. We should be getting all of the alerts here. So it's like this. Oh. We're just looking at the chat. Because we were focused on the chat. We weren't at the root, which has all of the components. You saw one of my Tori videos. You're welcome. Hopefully it was valuable to your learning and understanding. We've done a fair amount of them at this point and hit a bunch of the features, and we'll probably continue doing them, particularly because I'm involved with the project, so I sort of have an interest to continue doing Tori things for that reason. Yeah, here we go. Jeez. Okay, so we got the messages now. Howdy. So that should work there, but we don't have it on the... We gotta update the stream overlay. Let's swap the stream overlay to the test version. So we're gonna turn it off and we're gonna look at the test. And we're gonna go like this. And that I think is gonna work. And we're gonna turn that on. And we're gonna turn it on here. That should give us the test overlay. There we go. Still need to hook all those things up. I think we'll end up making that a command. And actually, there is commands within streamer.bot too. So rather than piping the 3D option through the messages, I wonder if we actually switch this to be a command, because it'll do some of the parsing for us, I believe. But now the text should show up here. And I think that's going to give it to us in both the overlay and the our view right now. Yep. Okay. So we got chat. We got that working. What does it look like if we do a command? Dare we get distracted with that right now? We can where would that be? It's commands. Got distracted there. Hey Chris, good to see you. Wave back. slash me waves back. Now I imported these commands from elsewhere. You can see there, quick start. So if we actually do a command, we want to listen to YouTube. We want to say the command is 3D. We can ignore bot accounts. Persist per user counter. I mean, I guess that's fine. This is going to be the action that it's triggering. Put each command prefix on its own line. So one of the benefits of doing it through here is we don't need to try to program and deal with all the moderators, subscribers, and VIP stuff, like the built-in YouTube functionality in our front end. So, and especially as the YouTube API changes, hopefully this is going to, abstraction is going to sort of handle some of that for us. So we don't need to try to continue to update our front end if some API in YouTube changes. I mean, for right now, like grant type, allow all or only those allowed available. Is there a like, I just want all of the people? We're gonna say chat commands. That's fine. So there's a cooldown, but then there's also an action. Interesting. I guess we want to do, we don't really have a action for it, do we? So I'm not sure. Grant type, we can set it to allow. I suppose that's approve, like an approve list or deny list, essentially, or an allow list and a deny list. So if we set the grant type to deny, anybody on that list is going to be denied. So I'm assuming that anybody not on that list is allowed to do it. So if we go ahead and turn that on, that's PUC. Oh, persist user counter. I was like, what's a puck? Now that's going to give us a command. So we can do a different stream event for it. And how is that going to show up in, our output here then? I think what's going to end up happening is if we look at the WebSocket events command, so we can then actually look for the command to come through, which I think honestly is probably the way to go. Command counter message. So it's going to do like that parsing of the message and everything for us, and that's probably going to save us a little bit of work. So let's swap to that actually. Do we do a new action for it? I don't know that it matters, but let's go ahead and add one. We'll call it commands. The value of this is that I can then pause these separately. And we can have like separate queues if we want to. And then we can handle that through streamer.bot. So we've got our 3D command, that. Now if we go into here, And since we're sort of refactoring anyways, let's go ahead and switch Twitch stream to be a YouTube. So now we can look for event types command. We need to subscribe to it though. So we're going to change this because since we implemented this, they've started filling this out a little bit more. And originally we were just caring about one thing, which is fine, was fine at the time. Was it just YouTube? I think it was just YouTube. We'll find out, I guess. So we're going to pass on YouTube, and then we want to also subscribe to commands. And see, that's the other thing too. We can do a cooldown. So we can set we can only show one at a time, and we can set a cooldown to be like every 3 minutes or 20 seconds or something, so somebody can't just come in and spam it. And then I don't need to handle that in my front end code, which is great. So list YouTube, we can go turn this on. This should still keep our functionality that we had. This is gonna live reload every time. It's fine. So these are the events. We want to do commands, and we can look for these. So we still do want to listen to a message. There's a bot whisper. Oh, look at my green screen. I guess she's consistent, you know. Just consistently wanting to do that despite all of my best effort to prevent it. So now we're subscribing to a list of events, and here we are passing to the event. So within our further on checks, what we can do here is we can say, well, we want to see that the event type is message, but then we also want to see that the is it event? I don't remember what it was now. That the source is command. Source is command. So that is going to give us a whole lot of help in the fact that we need to handle much less parsing. So what we can say here is command equals 3D. And now, and it like parses out that message for us too. So then in here, we are saying event data message, and our message is here. So then in our text layer, we don't need to do any of this, which is great, because we are looking at an array of words. Ooh. Channel alert, channel alert. So we were already parsing it out here to, here, this is what we don't need to do. Event data message. So we can just say event.data here. And I think that is actually going to give us, we're going to like automatically pass through more functionality. And I think that's going to make our lives easier because it is already parsed. So let's just double check that we didn't break it. There we go. Now, we only saw it in one place. It is possible that we did, in fact, break it. I'm gonna turn off. We're not actually messing around with the models at the moment, so let's just go ahead and turn that off. And we have put each of these at their own routes as well as everything at the root. So the root has both the alert canvas and the model canvas, but then we also did alerts, models, and chat route. So we can switch our overlay to just be alerts right now. And that should give us, every time this reloads, it should give us a little bit less noise, I guess is the way I would think about it. So here we should be getting a console.dir if we've got this now hooked up correctly. And we are doing stream elements here. Or stream events rather. So we're subscribing. And then we are doing a channel. We are sending the event for everything based on our subscription. So here we should be getting that. And this is looking just at the chat right now. So if we go to alerts, well, let's just go to the root so we can see everything. And there we got that rolling. So maybe we did actually have it fixed. That was just a throw. Were we at the wrong route? Yep. So now we have effectively filtered both in streamer.bot and in our front end code that we are only caring about this one command. And now we have the ability to set that command with permissions. So if for whatever reason we need to pause or change the permissions, we can basically do it on the fly right in here, which is pretty dope. So if we need to, I can just go in here and we'll just say allow, and only moderators and subscribers can do it, or whatever the situation is. So in all of this, it's fun to do the alerts and it's fun to do this overlay, but trying to keep top of mind that as I'm setting this up, I want to be able to, if anything happens, particularly as far as abuse or moderation type things go, we want to be able to quickly and easily turn it off. I don't want to have to turn off my layer or turn off the overlay or what have you. So this seems to be working. We're getting our alerts in here. We are getting that in here. Let's go ahead and just not worry about that right now. And let's flip back to our text layer, or not our text layer, our chat. So we should be seeing chat events. And now if we do in alert, it shouldn't show up here. Well, I guess we're logging everything out. It's not going to show up in the chat section because it's considered a command. So after doing all of that, we have now also filtered out it from showing up here, which is the thing that we were working on last time, which was taking our WebGL scene and kind of recreating the chat box, or the chat thing that we had technically within our WebGL scene. The way that this helper is working, as far as I understand, is immediately adjacent to our canvas, which is the WebGL scene. can see here, data engine 3.js. Oh, cool. They've got the, I'm assuming R139 is the version. Immediately adjacent is this HTML div, which the helper, as I am understanding it, is moving and transforming this div or elements within this div based on all of this and like this matrix 3D to make it look like the HTML is actually in the WebGL scene, but it's not, which is cool. I think that is both a good way to go and going to be very useful for how we want to set things up. So we are filtering on only having messages. So we want to make sure that we are seeing messages in here. And feel free for anybody to give that 3D command a try. It'd be nice to know that I have it set up to where it's not just working only for me. So here's our message. We're getting our channel alert. That is piping through the use alert. And this here too, we have abstracted this out enough to where we can potentially now just pull this out into a separate component. A bunch of that cleanup, especially in the model stuff, there's copy and pasted code, which was fine. It works. Like, there's no point in trying to make it cleaner or abstract it out until you sort of found that place where the abstraction seems to make the most sense. And at least for this situation and for what I was doing, copying and pasting it into all these models, like, it started to make it pretty clear where I could put those abstraction points. So now it's just a matter of going back and putting those in. It seems that Santa Guff is not coming to town. Okay, so we can debug that. The event should come through here. It came through as a chat event. Oh, no, that makes sense. Source YouTube message. Right? Because we've got, yeah, we have separate actions. So this is the action. When you do that, it's coming through as an action because we've got or as a chat, the action is coming through, the command is coming through as an action called, oh. Okay. Commands. Well, that's why it wasn't showing up there. So now we should see it actually coming through this. We saw the test there. It is possible that I just need to reload the overlay. Sometimes the hot, I don't know if it's a hot modular loading due to Vite or if it's an OBS thing caching. But occasionally I just have to like turn it on and off again, the overlay. So, give it another shot now. Fingers crossed. And we should also see it come through in here because we didn't have it set up. I put the action in place, but I forgot to hook the command up to the action. So we should see it come through as an event there when you do that. And we're getting here, as far as our chat is concerned, we are just hard coding hello.world right now, or hello world. If we want, we can now hook that up to the messages. So we are doing channel alert. And that is giving us a set state, and we are setting the state to message. So this is a use, which is going to be returning the state. So we can say channel alert is this. I think that's going to give us whatever text is there. I'm gonna assume that we want one outer like HTML thing. Although that could be a poor assumption. Let's try it. One chat message is one HTML element in here. So if we say channel alert does not equal, and we're gonna actually have to adjust this because right now what we're doing is we're just setting the state to be the message. We want to, in this case, support multiple messages. So if the channel alert is not that, we are going to be doing this. Otherwise, it's going to be null. And that should on reload. Oh yeah, keys. Key equals I guess feels odd that we need a key there, but did we, what is this object actually? It's gonna be empty. Let's just throw a chat message in there so we can get hopefully something logged out. Here we go. There's an event ID. I think it's probably going to be the easiest to use here. So we can say channel alert dot. Oh, and that's the other thing. Event ID. Event ID. We are using channel alert and we're setting all of the data. So event ID in this case is going to be default. So all we're really going to be setting as the initial state is the message and the event ID. But now this is going to have multiple values and things in here. So this needs to be channel alert message. No, not even .data message. No, we're piping in the data. That makes sense. So let's just give it a refresh here to make sure the errors aren't colliding here. So if we say howdy, there we go. We're getting text, and it is positioned absolutely, as in our box here. We actually want this abstraction up here because we're going to do one box per. We're going to do one box per HTML element. So I guess that sort of suggests how our abstraction should go. This should show up in the box. And this is a longer message. And this is the next thing we're going to have to deal with. Fitting that into the little box. Now we can do CSS things. But CSS sort of has the built-in expectation that containers can expand. So as you put as you put data in there, message from my wife. As we put data in there in a container, it's CSS, through the CSS and browser features, it's just gonna automatically expand. But I don't think we have that in our WebGL. So we need to figure out how to like get this text to show up in the box. I don't think it makes sense to do like a variable size font to where the more text we have, the smaller the text is, because then we're gonna have all these different sizes of texts in the boxes, which feels awkward. And actually, as we're doing this, let's do that. I'm not sure what this position is going to end up being. So we got the size and position. We definitely need these boxes smaller. So let's kind of knock a couple birds with one stone out here and start focusing on the sizing and switch this to an array. And then we can better deal with the text itself. So the args are going to be the box size. It feels like the box is something like 2.5 times too large. So if we say, I don't know, something like this and like that, position is going to be the channel alert is now going to be channel alerts is going to be an array, so we need to do an array map, and each thing in there is going to be something like this. So now we're mapping over the array of values, and so event stream.for each, use operation stream. So set state can take, I think it still can take a function, in which case we can get the current state. So we can then do, we will take our current state and spread it into an array, and then we will add our event.data into the end of it, and then set the state for that. What are we complaining about right here? We got a map. Okay, let's see. Where are we missing something? This is this. And we want to be returning a single value, of which I wonder if this is not happy about anymore. Times 1. There we go. So now this is going to give us an array of boxes. So you can see our box here. So now if we say message 1, message 2, I'm gonna start getting them in here. And as we get in a new message, we need to remove, we want to have up to 10. Yeah, I'm just throwing a value out there. So what we can say is we're going to, if current state dot length is greater than 10, then we do a thing. Otherwise, we just return the current state, and then that will let us spread. If and after we have done the spread, this is gonna get weird. Let's say it's gonna be 0 plus index times 2. And on JavaScript arrays, we can do a pop removes the last one, I think, right? There's the shift. There's a bunch of those like pop and shift that I use every once in a great while. We're effectively doing a mutation here, so it should be just perfectly fine to do unshift adds one or more elements to the beginning of an array, returns the new length. Splice is going to changes the contents of the array. Slice is going to return a copy into a new array, given a start and an end. So what we can do is we can say just the start, and it's going to give us a shell copy, so we don't need to worry about mutating the existing one. So we can say if it's greater than 10, then we're going to say slice slice begins at 0. So we're going to say slice 1, and that should pop off the first one at the top. And we're going to be, our chat messages, the one way up at the top, that's going to be the oldest message. So we want it to come down. So that's still pretty high. Let's say, I don't know what the top is going to be. So let's say 5 minus the index. Okay, a little bit too high. I feel like there's probably a better way to do this. We're gonna have a bunch of random chat messages in here. There we go. So now, if we keep going, eventually we hit messages popping off. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There we go. So 10 is definitely too big for this. But this canvas here that we're looking at is much smaller than we're actually going to see. So I think we can go smaller with these boxes. Let's do like 0.5 and 0.25 or something like that. Fine with the thickness being there. It's kind of fun to see the boxes change a little bit of shape just relative to how they are. But yeah, see, that's going to give us this. So what we now have to end up doing is saying font size should be can I oh, can't. This is not my default browser on Windows here, so I can't just click on the link because it's not going to open in that browser. It's going to open in random default browser that I got set. So MDM text size. Now we don't have any CSS libraries or helpers or anything in here. We're doing straight CSS. I'm not sure what's going to be our best what's going to be best to use here? I mean, we can try doing one M, and I guess rem, we'll do one rem. The difference between M and rem is the R is relative. What's it going to tell us here? The M's here. A dynamic or computed font size. M is derived from the width of a capital M. So here, this is where it starts to get like, it will equal the default browser font size. And then it starts to get real tricky. But if you do rem, we sidestep the compounding problem. So I think it is pretty common now to use rems for everything. So it's kind of annoying to have that random bubble there. We're doing an array, so actually we don't need a default anymore. And I think that is actually going to be cleaner. So let's go ahead and refresh this, and we'll just do one. It's still pretty big, and our gap is definitely different now. We're gonna have to think a little bit how to dial this in. Just tweaking it and refreshing is kind of painful. I mean, all those well, I guess on my screen they're over there, but is it down here? All those chat messages, it's sort of frustrating to have to like do that. So what we can actually do, instead of removing this, let us say this, and we'll go let default test state equals this. And then what we can do is we can just swap back and forth as need be. And we'll say 1. And actually, we don't even really need it in here. We can make it a global. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we're definitely gonna have a lot more text in here. So even just having those numbers as like a point of use is not gonna be particularly helpful. So we might want to put additional values in there, but this will just give us something to work with, and we can use those default values to sort of dial this in. And now, as far as the gap goes, I think we want to do something like, let's say, let box equals this. And we're going to say x is 0.5, y is 0.25, z is 0.5. Box.x, box.y. And now, having abstracted these out, it's going to be a little bit easier for me to remember what goes into these args. X, Y, Z is depth. I'm not sure if that actually matches up with what the 3JS expectation is, but based on my background, like that just instantly makes sense in my head. I can see that, and I have an expectation. So what we're doing here is we're starting up at the top. This is going to be an absolute reference, I think. It might potentially be dependent on the box size. I don't know if that location is based on the top of the box or the bottom of the box. So this starting value might actually change. What we could actually do then is first box location. And we will say 4. And now we've kind of abstracted out that concept. And what we can then do is, based on our box size, we can modify that relative to the size of the box if we want. The index we still do need, but we can then do the gap based on the box height. And let's say half of the box height is what we're going to do for our spacing. And see, that doesn't work. Now, why doesn't it work is the question. So when we're doing spacing, the position, if the position is from the bottom corner of the box, so the origin of the box, well, we don't have, let's just assume this is one big box. Origin is like way down here. Can we zoom in just a smidge here? It's real small. And we're gonna need to move this over too. So if the origin is in like the bottom left, when we want to do the next position, we need to do the gap plus the size of the box. So in reality, what we want to do is have a let gap equal box height plus the box height times an amount. And now we can say our gap is going to be the relative to the index of our array. There we go. So we're starting to get it now. The overlap, I think, is mostly coming from the depth. So if we make this depth real tiny, let's do like 0.5. These boxes are going to appear more flat. So it's pretty clear that our text size is still way too small, or way too big rather. But the question is this going to be too small for when we put it over in the overlay? We've got a test value here. Let me add another browser source so we can start seeing test text overlay. Now in OBS, we have, it's not going to be HTTPS because we're doing a local host, and this is on 5173, and we only care about the chat. We do have it hard coded to be 1080p, so that should be good. And you can see now in the middle of our scene we have these values here. So like if I switch to the code window, they're going to stay up on top there. So we definitely do need to move them over to the right. And it's because they're perfectly centered. So we do need to make them bigger too, because that is probably too small. So if we say something like 5, I think 5 is going to give us, I might end up having to like turn it off and on again. Oh, that, shoot, that was the camera. I was changing the camera. We want to do first location, first box Y location, and we're going to say box X location, because that is going to be a standard value, I think. And then the Z, we're always going to have it at Z, basically like right at the the glass says that we're, like, if you think of this whole view as like a TV screen, we want that box to be right up against the face of it. So we're gonna leave the depth value of where it's positioned at 0. So we got first box, Y location. Yeah. Box X location. That should be fine. So now if we do turn it on and off again, is it actually reloading? It says it's reloading. And I could tell this hot modular reload update script, if I hit save, you can see the timestamp change. I can make that just a little bit bigger. But anytime I hit save, it's reloading there. What do we got here? Shut down source. So we do want to I don't think we want to shut down the source, but we definitely do want to refresh when it becomes active. So now I can basically trigger it on and off just through OBS, and that'll get it to like a refresh. So then we can see it in the overlay right away. There we go. Okay. So now what we can do, I can go in here. I'm just going to look on OBS on the side here, and I can see where it's going to end up landing. So we do want to move it over a little bit more. Maybe 7. That's a little bit much. And actually, while we're at it, I can just toss this in. So in our one up with display, test text overlay. Chat. There we go. Oh boy. I can't. What? Make it go away? Yeah. Except now we got this here. We can test this out since we just put it in. There we go. Cool. So we got that in there. So that, I mean, that right there, we're gonna have to deal with that. And I mean, I can manually just hide it or remove it, but we're gonna need to in our events. Does it actually come through as a removal? That's the question. To message. I don't see it here. So we're gonna have to double check our events, because what I ended up doing was I hit it, which is different than just a straight up ban. It's like a shadow ban almost. I don't see a way to like handle that though. Because we got a chat message. I don't know if that counts as a user banned. I don't think it does. But we're gonna want to deal with that before we like really make this or alert overlay go live. Okay, so we got location wise, we're dialing in. We're getting pretty close here. That's pretty good. So it looks like it is the bottom left. So like if here I should be able to point. I think our origin is like right there. not on the top of the box, but right there. So now if we, so we get the box hard coded. That's the other thing now that we're gonna have to deal with. Based on the size of the text, it's gonna adjust the size of the box. But we can set the X and the Z. The gap is then gonna get kind of funny. So this abstraction might not actually work, which is fine. We'll keep playing around with it. Sure. We'll keep it a square. What are we looking with now as far as our size goes? See, now that's way too big. And it actually appears that the origin is at the center. So here we can kind of see it here. I think the origin might be like in the middle of that. Because if we made it bigger, it's expanding from the origin. So I think what's happening is the origin is actually in the middle of this. So our location should be an adjustment of box.x, and that will, based on the size of the box, then adjust our location to be, put the origin, instead of being here, put it in the corner. That's going to make it dealing with that a little bit easier. So now if we turn it back on and off, it's moved over. We probably want to set this to be like 6, I think. It's close. That might be a little bit tight. We can work with that though. So then our Y, we want to do a gap. If we've got a box of something like this, here we go, like that tall, that would be something like 1.75. And we probably want to gap something like that, which is what, a quarter of 1.75? So if we say 2 to make the math easy, a quarter of that, say maybe like 0.3 or so for a gap. So let's actually take out this abstraction here and say, rather than using the box size to make a relative gap, if we just hard code the gap size. We're still considering the size of the box via this, but now we're setting our gap based on this. And that's pretty good. Let's bump it down just a tad. And then we're going to need to adjust, I think, our box size here. So our X is a little bit big. Now we're looking at the other side of the box. So we need the box to end right there. We've got it starting right here. We need it to end right there. So that's the value that we're going to be playing around with now. Is it? Yep. Okay, so it's we got a little bit of space there still. Let's try 2.75. Yeah, I really wish there was a better way to deal with this. And here, actually, I can do. Put it behind me, because that's gonna be where it actually goes. It's gonna be a little bit easier to point then, because I can point over the top of the box. We got a little bit of a gap there. That looks good. So now we need to, width-wise, I think that's going to be pretty standard. Gap, I think, is going to be pretty standard. Now we just have the depth, and that's going to be the thing that should theoretically be dependent on the text. So if we set text size as a hard-coded number here, this is way too big. We still do want it legible, so we don't want to get too small. But if we do something like a quarter of that, that might start getting in the realm of a good size for our use case. And the box size is definitely, I'm expecting to be a little bit more wide than it is tall. So if we say something like 2 for box size, and we can bump up this to be, just give it a little bit of depth right there. Turn it back on and off. Okay, so now we're starting to get a little bit of size here. You can see that we are getting a little bit of the depth. And depending on the material that we use for this box, you're going to potentially see some of these edges. Like you can see here that we're getting some perspective going on because it's going out at an angle. I'm actually just going to turn that off for right now. I think it's going to take a little bit to dial in because the perspective is going this way. It's going to take a little bit to dial that in, especially with the gap. And I don't know if I want to deal with that right now. So, because we need to get this text squared away. Text size though, that's not bad. Is that legible? Can you all read that? That might be a good size to roll with. And now it's just a matter of like getting this text positioned. Because and actually, I mean, even still, this is like, can we do 0? Does it actually let us do a 0? Can we do a 0 depth element in 3JS? Still seems like it has some depth to it. Oh, let's just make it really, really thin. Are we getting any? Oh, okay. Go away. Encountered 2 children with the same key default. Keys should be unique. Hey. Yes, yes. Not that that error is actually really giving us troubles here, I don't think. Just to make that go away. So, like, it still seems like we've got some depth here, which is kind of surprising because I would expect this value to be controlling that. Do I have these flip-flopped? Because I'm setting the position. Args are just straight up there. So what if I do let's change that. Let's see if the depth of our elements actually change. It actually makes it look like they're thicker. See, this is okay. Rounded box. We've got an args. I think this is, I don't know if it's just a lack of familiarity with 3JS in general, but I just have the hardest of times keeping those args straight in my head. As far as, I mean, I think it's also dependent too on like how you have your camera rotated, which makes things even more difficult. So depending on how we set up this camera ages ago, that sort of determines what we're looking at. Rounded box. And we've got the arcs. Yeah, see, like, it's just as args. So, like, what? we've got our gap based on the Y. We've got our location stuff based on that. Let's change this value to be something like a 3 maybe. What is this gonna change? It feels like the X value makes sense. So now like that, that made it really deep. That might actually be. So the other thing too, if it's all the way up against our camera, the origin actually might not be the... If we got a perspective of a thing going this way, so like that one right there, I guess. If 0.2, if this is right at the horizon, which it looks like it's pretty close, perspective-wise, it would just be going straight out, which it seems to be doing. And the thicker it is, the more of that you'll see. If it's right up against the camera, depending on where the actual origin is, you'll get more depth. So if our camera is actually out 5, if we do a Z, okay, so no, we're actually setting the position here. If we actually set the 5 for the origin, I think that's actually going to put it further away. So if we do maybe a -5. Let's see what this does. Yeah. So that is effectively putting it like further away from us. It would be really handy to like move around in this as a scene. So we do still have a lot of depth of the elements. So I still do think we want to say something like this. And now we're potentially going to have, we're gonna have to scale stuff up a little bit, which is actually like 0.25 rem seems sort of bonkers. That's fine. So let's play around with this again. We need to do something like 5. And our height is going to be something like 2 maybe. Did it actually move? Box, oh, we need to adjust the box X location. The text is maybe a little bit too big still. So if we say 0.75 rem, and our box location is going to go up another, let's say 10 plus the width of the box. Nope, split the difference. Okay. And the width of the box could probably go up just a smidge. There we go. It's close. That's maybe just a little bit too big. And that might be due to the depth. It's close though. I'm okay with that. So then this can probably go up a little bit more. Oop. 2.5. This needs to go up. So what we're trying to do is hit all the way up the top, basically get it to land right up at the top there. And like theoretically we could, rather than just iterating over and over, we could figure this out. We know the origin. The origin is like back into our scene. Back into our scene 5 effectively, because our camera is out 5 from there. And then we are setting the FOV. That doesn't really affect much here. But this ends up effectively adjusting the based on perspectives. Well, I guess the FOV does actually matter, because we've got the origin, we've got a camera, and the FOV of the camera determines basically the edges of the screen. So we could run the math, we could figure it out, we could compute it, but this is kind of just faster. So now we've got number 2 is right up at the top. We start at number 1, so we're basically like a box too big. And a box too big means that we should go down to 6? I thought we had started at 6. Yeah. Should be 8? And like, I think this will work pretty good. Let's say 2.4. This is just still a little bit too wide. The problem with doing this is now that if I change the camera at all, if I put it in a different scene, we're gonna have to mess around with this stuff again, which is not something that I'm terribly keen on doing. So gap is based on we are doing so the height, if the origin is like the bottom left of one, so if like this is, if the origin is, well, the origin's actually right in the middle, so that might be part of what's making this a little bit difficult. So if we say box style Y, and then divided by 2, so we're saying from our origin in the middle, go up 8.5, but then minus half a box. So that should put it at the bottom corner. So if we actually say that, this should give us the box at the top left, or at the top, yeah, top left of the box position. That's actually pretty good right there. And now that's not going to be moving around on us a whole bunch as we adjust the height of the boxes. Yeah, that's fine. I'm okay with this. So now let's see if we can deal with this text. We'll deal with the text, and after we deal with the text, I think that's probably what we're going to shoot for doing today, or at least we're going to start dealing with text. We might not actually get it all done, but we'll give it a shot. So we've got our container here. Let's look back at, now that things have shifted around a little bit, let's look back and see what our CSS here looks like. So we've got our absolutely positioned container. It is relative to the height of the container, it looks like, the scene. So based on the scene has a width and a height. I don't think that can be dynamic either. I think you have to... Oh, yeah, I guess it can. You can set it to 100%, and I think you can change the container size. So then within here we have the HTML. What is that based off of? So we have a transform and a translation. All right, let's go back to this HTML. Now that we have things sort of configured and laid out how we're expecting to see it, I think that's going to make this a little bit easier here. Because like this stuff is, do we need to do a distance factor? Children will be scaled by this factor, and also a distance to a perspective camera. Zoom by an orthographic. So we've got the distance factor here. That could very well be this value. Let box z location equal this. And actually, I've been doing too much. One of the code bases I work in, let, is a ESLint thing where you're supposed to use let instead of const. So switching back and forth. I personally prefer to use const just everywhere, because there's JavaScript used to have var. Var used to be the only option, but it would hoist, and that meant that if you define a variable when JavaScript was doing its thing, it would actually pull it right up to the top effectively. So all of your variables would be set from the top, which is fine if you knew that was happening. With const and let, it added the ability to scope everything. So these variables are now scoped to this function. And that gives you a little bit better control, and you don't have to worry about like accidentally mucking around with global variables. And the idea is that let has the expectation that the data can be mutated, and const has the expectation that it cannot be. And that kind of makes sense, and it kind of works. But the problem is, it's just checking that the data type itself really is changing. So if you have an object and you change the... You still can mutate it with a const, as long as you're not changing the data type. So it does give you a little bit of guardrails, but it's not constant in the way that you might think. So as long as you keep that in mind and you understand how it's working, I personally prefer to use const as the way to declare variables generally. And you'll find that I use let occasionally in my code, but I don't actually have any in here. I use let if I'm actually expecting to mutate it. So that's sort of an indication to me that like, hey, this is a thing that we're mutating, you know, be careful of it. And that's because mutating variables can cause issues if you have the expectation that it's not changing. And React in general, I think it's easier to work with React if you're not mutating things. So, okay, so we've got our gap. We've got values here. It is still taller. So it's up at the top, but it's number 3. So we actually need to pull this down a little bit. And I don't know if did I just not notice that before? And I was setting it based on the 1. So like maybe 6. I feel like we just did this. I wonder if you got caught by some like cache thing or something. Okay, well, maybe not. Okay. So box Z location, we set that there. And then I'm wondering if we also need to set that as the distance factor. And you can see they got real, well, I mean, you can't see it because they're really small. So if we bump this back up to something like, I don't know, 8 rem, it's just going to give us text that is, what? Is it because it's negative? I mean, we can do that, I guess. Feels weird. Is it really? Yeah, it flips it. Okay, all right. Still too big. Let's go down to like 4 might be fine. Now, what does that look like on an overlay here? That's not bad. I think that's probably reasonable text size there. So if we say now, we've got that laid out and it is directly in the middle. So the class name, distance factor set, children will be scaled. Z index range, we don't need to worry about that. Transform, if true, applies to matrix 3D transformations. And sprite renders as a sprite, but only in transform mode. I don't think we want sprite, I think we potentially want transform. And I do have set transform to true. Just to double check, is it actually coming through like that? I don't know where it would show up. I mean, it could very well be that they're not even writing it out. I mean, we got matrix 3D here, so I'm gonna assume yes. Here, let's bump that up just a bit. So I think that's coming through fine. Calculate position. So you can manually override the default positioning. On occlude. Occlude would be HTML can hide behind geometry using the occlude property. So that's what that means. We can attach a thing to a WebGL element, and then we can actually have other WebGL elements go over the top of it. And I'm guessing there's some sort of clip or something going on there to help out with that. Okay, so here we go. When the HTML hides, it says opacity prop on the innermost div if you want to animate or control the transition. So we can control it a little bit more cleanly than just something's covering it, hide the whole thing. I don't think we actually care about that in our use case. Full screen, ignored in transform mode. So it definitely does seem like we are getting our text landing right in the middle. We've got to translate negative 50/50 on there. Oh, whoa. It's just like constantly setting it. So it's setting the CSS. We can actually edit the CSS because I think what's happening is when React 3 Fiber is running, every frame, it's like recomputing this stuff. So if we try to like turn it off, it's just like resetting our CSS there. So we're gonna have to do it this way. We're removing the margin and padding. Now, what if we do? How do we do? How do we make it go further left if that's basically the origin? No, I think that's the thing that that feels like the key. Ignore pointer events. We got a p div HTML. What if we take this just transform off? What are we looking at then? Still there, right? Yeah, they're just really small. And we are getting a scale on there. What happens when we take that distance factor off as well? Let's just go like straight up HTML element. We'll see what the default is. Okay, so canvas div. So we're getting some transform in there. Well, no, we're not getting any transform in there. And it's landing it right in the middle of the element. Position absolute, top, left, transform, translate 3D. Scale is 1. I think this, maybe we just leave that scale off, because that actually feels, that feels better this way. Now the translate 3D, it's moving over set number of pixels and up into set number of pixels. The value must be based on the element. So what would that, how would we adjust that? So if we're not doing transform, there's a calculate position. We could potentially do the calculate position for us. That feels like such a, that feels like such a pain. How are these doing it? So like if we look at this example, it is like, I'm assuming the watch is a GLTF something or other. Use GLTF, looks like a watch is properties. So I'm guessing like this watch face. Oh, what do we got as HTML? Okay, no, that thing that's sitting up atop. Yep, this element up here. That layer right there, that's over the top. I mean, that's really cool. Rotation. It gives a rotation and position. What? Okay, that feels odd. Why would it be doing that? So if we say position, because we don't really need any rotation here. It is giving the same position stuff. So if we say position is this, and we don't have any like translation layers, is it going to be, is that position going to be relative to like its container? In which case we say this is actually going to be box.x divided by 2. Z is probably fine as 0. Well, actually, no, we'll keep it as the box Z location. And then Y is going to be box.y divided by 2. What is that going to give us? So it does seem like it, they can kind of come outside of their container here. We do get, it seems to be adjusting the translate. So let's just do some hard-coded values here and see how it moves. This should be positive in both directions, so I would expect it to not do that, because this is moving. Interesting. I just realized I was, wait, is my chat not scrolling? Oh, top chat. That's annoying. I wish it had, oh, I can do timestamps on this, can I? Let's see, toggle timestamps. How long ago did I miss that? Ah, it was a while ago. So, note to self, I should say live chat. Top chat is not the thing I want to be looking at. Yeah, good old finger debugging technique. Do we have space here? Well, this especially is hard because like I'm looking to debug this. I'm looking at a little box. It's hard to see like where the actual edge is. Yeah, ESLint rule to use let. I mean, you know, people have their things, and that's not a hill that I care about trying to die on. Whatever. Yeah, and const is an immutable binding, not immutable data. Yep. So it's, I like it. I like to use const for everything because I get that immutable binding in there, and that does occasionally save me. But honestly, like I don't even think it helps that much either, because the most of the code that I write is not actually mutating, and even if it is, it's not really mutating within but like between data types. So it's just like changing a string from a string A to string B. Yeah, that was so long ago. That's stupid live chat. Like, I don't know. I guess if you got a lot of people watching, top chat makes sense. But I don't know how it determines what's a live chat versus top chat. Like, or what determines a message to be considered something that should be shown as a top chat. Yeah, good to know. Catching up with chat, right? That's what we're doing here. Except I wasn't actually focused. I was looking right at chat, but it just was not showing anything. Okay, back to this. Whoa, where did our number go? Oh, okay, there, 1. So what is it adjusting? We're adjusting this. Is it? You're not worthy of top chat, yeah. Okay, the irony of ironies. I also have the live dash. Google doing weird things. I didn't even hear what it said. I've got the live dashboard over on the other monitor. That has top chat, and everybody's chat is shown. In my little OBS window, it's easier, just more convenient to type, and it's I actually have it like literally placed right next to my camera. So when I'm reading chat, it looks like I'm sort of looking at the camera. That had top chat, and that didn't have anything shown. Weird. So like top chat apparently changes based on who's looking and where you're looking at it from. Anyways. Okay, our number one disappeared again. Okay, so what is this position? I wish there was a little bit more to go with these docs. That would be appreciated. So there's, yeah, okay. We're getting div props and group props. So like that's where the position and Argos and such are coming from. But I don't understand how it is. Yeah, Schrodinger's top chat, no joke. Okay, and that I saw that chat over there, and then it came up over here. So like the latency is different between. I'd expect this to be more live because this is like the doc directly in OBS, or like this one right next to the camera here. Growing pains, I guess, right? Eventually consistent. Okay. So we have lots of properties. Some that are listed here and some that are inherited from 3 and whatever HTML div element. Where the heck? What's that? See, and this is the other thing. Like all of the examples, just have it like hard coded, basically. Like the position is this, which is fine, but also like div class scale. So like scale 100. Okay. Well, what is that like scale based off of? Let's just give the code a quick gander. We might be able to suss out a little bit of what's going on here from the code. Where would that be? Helpers, maybe? Web, HTML. So we get object z index, epsilon, get CSS matrix. The React component is here, so it's doing some React ref stuff, which is pretty common for how they've implemented things I've seen, at least in this dry library. Use layout effect. So if it's full screen, then it does those things. Otherwise, it's doing. So if you have transform center, then it just does that. Otherwise, it does no transform. Wait, if that's different center. Okay, so if transform is set, do this. So we have transform off right now. And like I mean, top and left is 0. Let's try something. So if we say transform is true, and we say occlude is true, this is a React component. I'm going to actually guess that they're expecting booleans here rather than the text built in. What is the occlude doing? Okay, so this is what I was curious about. Occlude, what it's going to do is it's going to hide that value, or it's gonna hide the div if you got something overlapping it. I'm overflow hidden display none. It is setting it to display none. So what we are seeing was technically occluded, which I think means that what's happening is it's actually on the other side of our square here. And I was expecting it to be on this side of the square, so that when we did that one value, which one is it? HTML transform. The distance. When we set the distance and it was a negative, it actually flipped it. So I think what's actually potentially happening is, can we do the camera helpers so we can move the camera around? And let's go ahead and give it a look. I'm gonna guess that they're not actually being drawn where we're expecting them to be, so that when it's doing a shift or it's centering them on the thing in this view, like, it looks like it's centered there. I'm wondering if it's not actually centered there and it's just like drawn somewhere else, and because we had occlude set to false, it just happens to look like it's right in the middle. Gizmo helper, we want to be able to pivot. No, we don't want to pivot the thing. We want to transform controls. You can wrap objects will then receive the transform gizmo. I guess we could do that. I don't think that might not actually work with our WebGL though, or with our HTML. Well, let's give it a shot though. I don't know if we wrap all of the elements, if it's going to let us. Are they all gonna, like, I don't want the settings. Are they gonna group? That's the thing that I'm not sure about. So if we do the transform controls, let's go ahead and give it a refresh. So it's moving the things. I can't actually see the is there a separate orbit? Transform, shape, mode, translate. Oh, I want to do rotate as well. I think the translate locks it to just actually be a translation. Maybe not. Orbit controls. Pivot. Oh, wait. Is orbit controls what I'm actually looking for? Yep. Yeah, let's do orbit controls. Because I don't want to translate the actual object itself. I don't care as much about that. I want to orbit around my scene. And that'll help give me a little bit of perspective, I hope, of where these things are being drawn. There we go. So here you can see sort of our stack of boxes. And I don't see, I'm assuming we still have some HTML here. We don't. So let's turn off occlusion. Because that's a little bit heavy-handed now that we can move around. I mean, it seems like it's stuck to it. So it might be a thickness thing. It might actually be drawn in the center of the box. And it does seem to stick with it pretty well, though. So, like, props to the implementation. It's pretty dope. We'll leave in the orbit controls for it now, just so we can kind of get an idea of where it's going and what it's doing. But let's turn off this transform as true, and we'll see what that does now. This, I'm expecting, is going to, yeah, see. So now as we move around and shift the thing, it's not actually sticking with it. And so I think the transform is more of a rotational type thing than a positional type thing, because it seems to be sticking in relatively what I would expect to be the same spot. Like, it might be that it's actually drawn in the front of it. So if we do that same perspective, it is actually attaching it directly to it. So like, it feels right to have transform on. I think that's what we want. And I think that's gonna give us the best integration. So now if we go back to HTML, so it's doing the matrix 3D transformations. And what we are getting is calculate position, ignored, and transform. So we can't do the calculate position because it's going to ignore it. If we do something in CSS, what is that going to end up doing? So if we say transform, I don't remember if scale 3D, scale X, inherit. Two-dimensional transformation. Is it a comma? I don't remember if it's comma separated. 50%. Let's give that a shot. Now it does look like we already have a transformation on there. So I don't know actually if this. Whoa. So that's the other thing. I'm gonna be a little careful when I'm dragging in there. Canvas. All right. So we have our transform, and we got our translate right there. So let's look up some CSS. It doesn't seem to It's just straight up HTML there. So let's say MDN transform. I don't use this transform and translate enough to remember offhand what to do. So we can do translate. What does translate look like? So translate gives us values. And we can do multiple values. 3 values. So let's try translate. There's no comma. It is space separated. What are you telling me? Translate is not supported by Chrome. Really? Yeah. Really? It seems like it is. Like. Is that outdated? Is this just a I need to update dependencies kind of thing? Okay, so it has moved. Can't really right click on there anymore, which is a little bit annoying, but so we are getting. Do I have the first one selected? Div. Oh. So this should be number 1. Yep. So there is a translate in there. And it is positionally a certain amount. How are we gonna get it to like resize the box and everything? This is gonna be tricky. How about some more text here? Because like this is also gonna need a wrap. So like we're going to we're gonna need to that's not what I want to do. Well, I can do this. Multi-cursor, yay. Are we gonna have to do a lot of like handling of this stuff? Yeah, because it's like, ooh. The origin, it's actually writing it from like right to left. Like what? I'm a little bit stumped on how we're gonna have to deal with that. Like transform feels like the right answer. Set children to be scaled. Center adds a CSS transform. There's a wrapper class. Like we're almost gonna have to like calculate the message size or something, I think. Let's see what the issues say. Is there anybody else that has like played around with this? Correct occlusion. Okay, that would explain our confusion with occlusion. Mouse events pass through. Oh, wait. Portal prop relative. What's this portal prop? Portal. Reference to target container. So what they're doing is they're attaching it to this specific view, it looks like. HTML has position absolute. You need to have the portal position be a position relative. I'm not sure what the view is doing either. So they have a whole bunch of different views, of which they've got refs. So where's this HTML? I don't see it at all. Okay, well, I think we're going to need to end up digging into it a little bit. Real occlusion. Create footer while using scroll controls. It seems like there's a bunch of things about scrolling. And not related to the camera. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense. We could give all of our dependencies an update too. If the transform property is initially true, interesting. So like they're doing visibility and they're setting positions. Let's go back to like the way it's being drawn. It seems like it's being drawn with the bottom right being the bottom right of the text. So if we take that as an assumption of what's actually happening here, and we adjust the position, let's say 0, 0, 0. What do we end up with here? Is that position gonna change? No, it doesn't. So if we adjust whatever that arc is, it goes up. It goes up one what? Maybe rem? Like this might actually be HTML stuff at this point. So if we end up doing this, how is that going to adjust it? It's moving it over. But what is that value? Like position of one. Okay, so that is actually making it go up and down. If we set the box C location to be the same, this is where it flipped. Yeah, so it's actually like drawn It's drawn behind it on a negative. So these boxes are definitely in front of it. So in box Z location is -5. So if we do a math.absolute, I think the positioning of it relative to the camera, I think this will put it on there. No, now it's in front of it. Okay, so 0 definitely then puts it right on top of it. Yeah, so 0 is definitely putting it right in on top of it. And now there's some expectation that this is going to be, if we do box.x, box.y, I'm going to assume there's some sort of like division in here. If we say divided by 2, if it is actually drawing it at the middle, that should put them so number 1 is going up. If we do a negative, and the like that X is gonna get tricky then. So it's like dependent on the text's height. Oof. We do know the size of a container. It's sort of painful to consider hard coding it, but we could set the actual font size to be something like 16 pixels. That would then let us make an adjustment that doesn't change so right now it is at the bottom. So if we say negative that plus, I don't know if this is going to actually work. Plus 16. That's gonna make a string. Like, it would be really nice to know like what those values are. Not pixels. So how do I like match this stuff up? Yeah, so like that puts it actually on top of the thing. So like we need some expectation of like what the text height is, which this is awful, but like text height equals, there's got to be some like translation way we can translate it programmatically. But if we just YOLO call it that, we need to go a little bit bigger. Like, it puts it on there, correct? Ish. But positionally, that like that's just rough. That is gonna be really rough. So if we go over a certain amount, we know box dot x divided by 2 is going to put it pretty much over to the far left. It seems like there's a gap there where it's not being drawn perfectly. So like there's some extra positionally of like 0.8 0.25 maybe. Where it's moving it over just a little bit too far to the right. So like that seems like it works, but now do we end up having to calculate that height? Like how many characters is that? Say const max characters. If we presume there's some, yes, just fix the spelling for me, please. Characters. Max characters has got to be something like a number, and if we say, and this is also going to depend on the font too. So like if our font is, was it monospaced? If the width of characters can change as well. So how do we do that translation? So if we do say text width, and we have some expectation of a character being, the width of a character is in the neighborhood of twice of our gap. So like 0.5, in which case we can figure out that the max characters is going to be I guess box.x divided by text width. Oh god, that gets ugly fast. We can start doing something where we like do the wrapping ourselves. But that sounds awful. We could, it's in CSS. We could, based on some expectation of character sizes, we could be a little bit conservative and make the box a little bit bigger than we need to. And we could calculate the size, like the height of the box, in which case we could set the HTML height. So we've at this point determined the top position of it. If we would say something like height equals 10 pixels, like what is that gonna end up doing for us? Can we also say width equals? I have no idea like what. We could potentially set these to like rems too. I don't know if that's actually gonna affect the see the width and the height is based off of, for the actual HTML element, is based off of the container. So we've got this div. And we've got a container here. With this HTML element, we can, I mean, there's some weird translation stuff going on, but if we say this div is the one where we're getting our container, but right above that is an empty div of which you can set the wrapper class. So we can say wrapper class equals box. Sure. And now if we say we have a box, if we instead, well, I don't think this translate is actually doing anything. If we call this a specific I mean, this is just going to be changing the, all it's doing is changing the class. Ugh, boy. Okay. I'm curious what that ends up giving us. So we should have another class in here, and should be, I think it ends up writing it directly into the, so classes box. Okay, so it's actually doing a full, like it's wrapping the whole thing, which I don't think is what we want. I do think we could potentially just go into here though and say style equals width. I don't know. Let's say 10 pixels. So that, I mean, that might end up being the way to go. We'll have to figure out a way to like calculate the size of the box still. But that'll do the wrapping and stuff for us. So if we're able to take, we have a set amount of content. We need to make the box a height that is dynamic based on the text. I don't think we can. I don't think we can have CSS figure out the layout and then adjust the boxes. So I think we're still going to have to do some sort of way to calculate the text height. So everything in here is doing some sort of like hard-coded value, and they just like put it in there and see if it looks decent, which is fine for that use case. But if we're trying to be a little bit more dynamic with it, that starts to give us issues. And I don't see any helpers in here that are center bounds float. I don't actually see anything in here that's going to give us any additional help for helpers. Wrapper on the S3G loader. This text is actually text within. It's translating the text into WebGL. I think we do want to stick with CSS just because it'll be more convenient. So, I mean, depending on the wrapping and everything, we could end up getting we could just say number of characters. We can figure out the number of characters. We've got text input there. So if we just have some assumption as far as the text width goes and we do the number of characters, that could give us like theoretical like number of lines. It's not going to be, it's either going to be on the money or it's going to be short, because if you have, depending on how the wrapping goes, you might have some like empty characters space there. So it wouldn't be conservative to use the number of characters. Yeah, so it's gonna be completely. I mean, we could just do +1. It'll be close. So if we say number of characters, we have a max characters per line. This is an expected max characters per line. So if we have the height of the thing is going to end up being we do have a line height. So it's the line height of the line box. It's like this is going to kind of matter too. What's fit content? Length percentages. I mean, we could just get a little cheeky, and if we have to shrink the text, then so be it. It's going to shrink slightly, which might not actually be that noticeable. But if we call the max characters per line, that should give us a character's number of lines. So, and we say the line got the text height. Yeah, we know that. So the height could be now this is actually setting it to this on the CSS side of things. Can we do rems? Would it work relative? So one rem would be the width of a single character. A W, which is the widest one, I guess. Would we be able to do like... Here, let's try it. Width. If we just call this 10 rem, what do we end up getting? It does do some wrapping. We've got, this has a translate on it. So I think that'll give us the right size and everything. We need to do a, why does that have that translate there? That's, we don't have any translates still sitting around, do we? Guess not. Translate. Is that actually gonna move it? Oh, it's going the wrong way. I don't know why that translate comes in, but if we do the opposite direction, that's still not. It's wild. Margin, padding, font size. I kind of feel like the transform feels like it's what I want it to do, but it also feels kind of like I'm fighting the expectations there behind the translate. So we've got this positioned, and that has a translate, and then we're like translating it back. This has, and we can actually I'm surprised it's letting us change that. Okay, so the width is what's setting the constraint. If we turn off the translate, it is okay. That looks right. It almost seems like we need to like double back. So like it's doing a negative 50%. I almost feel like we want to do this. All right. So if we do I mean, this doesn't even feel right either. If we're setting the width, I think we're just gonna have to like play around with this. I don't know any other way to do this, which is really frustrating. So we are making adjustments here. So if we do, at least we can adjust it here. So the width is still dictating. It seems like it's putting it in the middle, which I think is actually going to make this even harder to deal with. Gosh, pointer events auto. Is there anything else that it's actually doing? No. I mean, that translate feels right. But see, like this is moving it. So what's the actual origin of this thing? Yeah, this is the one that if I try to edit this is just gets overridden every time. We're gonna have to do that translate 50% just feels off. I think what we're gonna have to do is we set this translate to be 50%, 50% to sort of combat that movement a little bit. And now we've got something that's like reasonably positioned. And if we would do, come on, when we adjust the width, come on, I just want to put another element in there. Height. Fit content. See, now this is the other thing. If we set a height in here, is it moving at all based off of so I'm constraining the height to basically one line, but it's moving it. So there's some expectation as far as like the translation also being affected by this. That is really confusing. How do we deal with this? I mean, figured this was going to be the hardest part. It's turning out to be. So the question then is, how do we go about dealing with it? Independently of the transfer, this maps better to typical user interface usage. So like, what is going to be translate versus transform here? So we've got to translate, and if we do a transform, invalid property value. So they're doing a transform of, they're doing a translate. Which I guess is going to be the same thing, right? No. You transform on the translate. So you can do it on the container. So if I do something like a 50% here just to undo what they're doing there. It's moving the whole thing. So well, I guess I'm editing the container. So I guess that makes sense. And everything is contained here. So if I do that and I'm take off these, that shouldn't actually be doing anything. So that still puts me about in the right spot. Adjusting the height just feels awkward though. Because no matter what I do now, anytime I'm setting the height, because everything's like to the origin, to the center. I think I might end up having to like do my own calculation for this. I don't see any other way to do it because the transform is nice and it sticks it right on there. But the calculation ends up putting it right in the middle of the object, which is giving us troubles. I guess the other thing is, so we're setting the position here. We're adjusting the position of the rounded box, which contains this. We have to be to move the box. We need to be adjusting the position. I don't see any other way of doing that. We could potentially do, if we put this in our physics system now, this is the other question. If we put this in the physics system, we don't want to really be setting the position, maybe an initial position, but not the, we're not fixing the position. We want to hand that responsibility off to the physics system, or the physics engine. If we do that and position then goes away, is this HTML going to still attach itself properly to the rounded box? this might be a good place to call it. And I think potentially we play around with that tomorrow and see what it looks like if we throw this into physics. It'll be a little bit weird because when they drop, they're all going to fall on each other. But like knowing if the HTML element is going to stick to that rounded box, even when it's put in a physics system, I think is going to be valuable information for us to deal with. So I think that's press the wrong button here. I think that's a good place to call it. I knew this was going to be not easy. And I mean, you know, the chat's broke, whatever. It's not the end of the world. It would be nice to get it done over the next couple of streams. Speaking of which, I plan to stream hopefully the rest of the week. I've got a little bit of vacation here, so I can spend some midday streaming, besides doing other stuff and getting other stuff done. But the rest of the week, I think we'll shoot to try to get as much of this done as we can, so at least we get the chat back, and then we can work on other stuff too as we go. So I think tomorrow what is today, Tuesday? I think we'll be able to stream tomorrow. The next time I stream, we'll go with that. We'll try throwing this in a physics system and see how that HTML layer sticks to it. I think we're gonna have to like sit here and play around with and try to figure out how it's doing these calculations. And I'm gonna actually just go right back to this. I think I have a suspicion that the thing that's going to end up being the way to go is to this calculate position, because we'll have to figure out how the matrix 3D stuff works. But we're going to have this, and that is going to give us the camera stuff and whatnot is valuable, but also we're going to have this number, which I think is potentially going to also be helpful too in I think that's potentially going to be helpful in figuring out like the size of the container and everything. Because if we can get this HTML container to like fit nicely to whatever our box is, we can make this box a size, and then if we can get the HTML container to fit that, all the flow of the text and everything should work out fine. But then it's the only thing we end up having to worry about is like, is this box big enough? Like, we might have to do some calculation there to figure out a size. It's possible we might need to do a loop type of situation, or like a callback kind of thing, like figure out a size of this, drop the text in there. If we get some overflow, like bump it up one more line. That would be great, but like I think we potentially have options there. This layout though is just being an absolute thorn. I think the only thing we're going to be able to do there is the calculate position. So next time when we stream, we'll give that a go. Thanks for coming along for the, I guess, long ride at this point. We are going to keep streaming on YouTube. The streams on YouTube are going to be a little bit more like behind the scenes, I think, with the expectation that, you know, we'll hang out, maybe we'll have some guests and we'll do some chat and stuff, but it'll be a little bit more like behind the scenes type style, and that I think is going to make open up my ability to produce more targeted content based off of what we learn here. So this is very like experimental. We're playing around. We don't know all these APIs. We're digging in, learning, which is going to be valuable for some people, but also we've been here for 3 hours. We made a little bit of progress, but that might not be the type of content that everybody wants. So I think we can distill some of these these things that we learn down into smaller bites of content that would be useful for potentially a greater audience. But yeah, we'll keep on doing the streams. After this month and vacation goes through, we'll do Friday streams, so not just the multiple streams back to back that I'm hoping to do this week. So yeah, next time, hopefully tomorrow, if not Thursday. Anyways, thanks for stopping by. See ya.